have you ever had aches and pains in your knees and feet that are so debilitating you can't even get out of bed, and another shot and another ice pack just doesn't quite do it for you? Well, check it out. I'm going to show you how you at home can take care of this yourself.
Howdy, and welcome to the Bar SC Ranch, where you will experience our journey of running a family business, caring for animals, and doing life together. Subscribe now and be inspired here at the Bar SC.
Hey everyone, this is Tim at the Bar SC Ranch. I know oftentimes you recognize us as ranchers, working on the farm, taking care of animals. But in order to be able to take care of animals, we also have to be able to take care of ourselves. In order to work long hours and long days and throwing hay bales and moving heavy stuff around the ranch and just being around all day, we got to take care of our bodies. So in my past life, I was actually an elite and a marathon runner, ultra marathoner. I got into running long distances, 100-milers, running across the country. I was also a kinesiology major in college, so I studied health and wellness. I studied the human body and kinetics and how our bones and muscles and tendons and connective tissues and ligaments, how they all work together, or how they're supposed to work together, but they don't always do work together. So what we do here on the ranch, I'm going to show you a couple things that we do to really take care of ourselves physically, and so that we can work our long days. But before we get started, in case you haven't seen any of our other videos, we do have a ranch wellness playlist. Check that out. I've done a couple of videos on just high level. So I've talked about 5 different tools that you can use from head to toe that can help you. This is sort of a do-it-yourself deep tissue massage type of lesson. Right? So what I want to do is teach and empower folks how to use these tools on their own to manage their own physical health. So check out those videos if you're interested. But for today, what I want to do is go through essentially the lower body. I want to really focus on the legs. All right, so we want to get in a little bit deeper and talk about specifically some of the ailments, some of the chronic pains that oftentimes folks experience on a regular basis, but they don't ever really know how to manage that pain. And they'll go to physical therapy, they'll go to the chiropractor, they'll get special shoes, orthotics, special boots, they'll do cortisone shots. I mean, just all these different sort of one-off would-be solutions to the problem. But what I want to take you through is how the problem and the cause, or I should say the cause and the symptom, are disconnected from each other. There's an indirect correlation between the cause and the problem. The cause and the effect. So, for instance, if you have, we're going to talk about knees and we're going to talk about feet, and we'll probably even address hips a little bit as well. All right. So, if I have pain in any one of those joints, hips, knees, or feet, your foot does have joints in it. You don't think that's a foot, but primarily the arch and the heel. Right. That's where we get a lot of pain. What I want to do is talk to you about the reason why you have that pain is primarily because there's a hang-up in your muscle fibers. So think of a muscle as hundreds of rubber bands all working together, all right? And as you try to constrict and contract those muscles because of an action that you're doing, so it could be called flexion or extension of a joint. As you're trying to flex and extend a joint and you're trying to mobilize those muscles to what I call bear the load, all right? If you have a hang-up in that muscle fiber, right? If some of those rubber bands are locked up, and what we call that symptom is a trigger point, or it's myofascial tissue that's built up in that muscle fiber, all right? And that muscle fiber, the muscle fiber is very tight. It's not elastic. It binds down on that muscle, and it will inhibit your muscle from elongating. So if I have, say, 70% of my quad is locked up, when I try to extend out that muscle, I'm not going to get the full elasticity from that muscle. All right, so what's going to happen, instead of my quad bearing the load, say I'm climbing the stairs and my knees are creaking, well, as I'm climbing the stairs, I'm trying to mobilize my quads, all right, but I've got this myofascial tissue that's locked down in some of my quad muscle, and so as I go to take that step, instead of my quads expanding, right, and giving me the length that I need in my quads, they're shortened. And so then what happens is a chain reaction. And so you start getting, essentially the dominoes start falling, and my quads aren't able to bear the load, and so then they actually pull away from my knee, and that load gets transferred down the line, and the dominoes are falling, and you don't really realize it until one day your knees start popping and crackling and aching real bad, right? And so the result is, so the cause is, hey, I've got this myofascial tissue in my quads, I don't have full elasticity to bear the load, all right, and so the load gets transferred down the line, and the effect is my knee is popping and crackling. But so often we focus on the knee, or my Achilles tendon, or my heel, or my arch is super painful, or my hip, and we focus on the problem, not the cause or the symptom, or the cause. So the cause is my muscles are tight, the symptom or the effect is my joint hurts. So what I want to do is go through, so let's say hip pain is a real common deal, right? In the outside of your hip, sometimes your hip flexors, your knee. So primarily the main things would be patella tendon, which is the tendon right below your kneecap, right? That's usually where the doctor hits your knee to get you to do the reflex. And then your IT band on the outside, so along the outside of your leg, the IT band is oftentimes very problematic, sometimes behind the knee and inside the knee. But every single one of these areas, these are all tendons and connective tissues that are directly correlated to your muscle groups. And so we want to look at rolling out, how we roll out our quads. So you've got your rectus femoris, you've got your lateral and medial vascularis, and then your intermedial vascularis. So those are the four, that's why it's the quad muscle, those four muscles. All right, and your rectus femoris, your top quad muscle, turns into a tendon underneath your patella bone and connects as your patella tendon just below your knee bone. So the patella tendon is connected to the rectus femoris. So when just below my knee is really painful, and oftentimes runners get this, and what they'll do is wear a neoprene strap around their knee, all right, to try to reduce the friction. Well, the way to address that is not to focus on the knee, but to go back up the line, all right? So there's 1 degree of separation typically between the cause and the effect, all right? And so what we want to do is figure out if it's the front of my knee, I want to back up to my quad. The IT band is another real common ache and pain that you get, especially for runners. All right, that's another real problematic area. And you'll again see a neoprene strap strapped around the top of your knee. And again, we're using that strap to try to reduce the friction that's being built up in our IT band. But if we would move up the line and recognize that there's again a direct correlation between the two, and so let's move up the line from your IT band up into your muscle just above, right? That's where you want to start rolling out. So those are some of the real common deals with the knee, IT band syndrome, patella tendonitis, and then you get down into your feet, and some really common ones that people having a hard time with right now is plantar fasciitis. All right, that's been a real common one lately. What that is plantar fasciitis is a real painful, sharp shooting pain. People say it feels like they're stepping on needles, someone's sticking a nail in their heel, but it's at the base of your heel, where your arch and your heel come together. All right, and the plantar fasciitis. So the plantar fascia is again connective tissue, and it connects from one muscle on the outside of your calf. Your pectineus longus is one muscle on the outside of your calf that comes down, it wraps around, it becomes a tendon around your ankle bone and wraps in underneath at the base of your heel into the plantar fascia. So the problem again here is not that your arch is the problem. So getting arch supports, it's not a bad thing, it's fine, but getting splint boots, arch supports, trying to stretch, those sorts of things are only gonna slightly help the issue. The real problem is coming up into your calf. It's because your calf is too tight, and you have a limited amount of elasticity, so your calf muscles aren't able to bear the load. And oftentimes, women or even men that wear boots, we get this sometimes on the ranch because we've got heels on our boots, but whenever you're wearing any type of heel and you're lifting up your heel, you're shortening your calf muscle throughout the day, and then you try to go to a flat shoe, and oftentimes when you drop your heel and you're stretching out that calf muscle, it's not able to do so because it's been tightened up over the years. All right, and so what we need to do is get in and roll out that calf muscle. So this is do-it-yourself deep tissue massage work. We got a couple tools that we're going to go through and show you how to use these. The stick and the foam roll are my two favorites. So plantar fasciitis and then Achilles tendonitis. I failed to mention that. This is the last one. Also really painful. A lot of folks deal with Achilles tendonitis. A lot of volleyball and basketball, especially when you do court sports, that's oftentimes a real big problem. All the jumping and working on the balls of your feet. You're tightening your calves super tight. All right, you're engaging your calves constantly when you're on the balls of your feet, jumping for the hoop, jumping for the volleyball. And so again, the way to mitigate plantar fasciitis and Achilles tendonitis both is to go after the calf muscle with our rolling tools. So I want to show you how we do that, and again, just wanted to share with you the importance of deep tissue massage work. It actually works. It's super simple. It's what we do on a regular basis on the ranch. Just about every day, somebody's rolling out, keeping our muscles soft and supple so that we have full elasticity of the muscles, so that we then have full mobility of our joints, pain-free most of the time. I just got over, my back's been hurting for a couple of days, so I've been rolling out my quads, my IT bands, and my glutes to help with my lower back. So I've just even been dealing with that for the last 2 weeks. So it happens even if you're rolling out. But just want you to know there are things that you can do at home. The tools are super cheap, easy to use. So let's show you. I'm going to now walk you through step by step how to take care of those different ailments that you might be experiencing. All right. So the first tool that we want to use is called the stick. So this is essentially like a rolling pin. It's got a fiberglass rod in the middle, so there's a little bit of flex and bend to it. And it's just got these plastic knobbies here that do roll around. And so we like to hold this tool if you were curling a weight, right? You want your palms underneath so that you're grabbing your handle, and so you can really lift up and push into your calf muscle. The idea is you want to apply as much pressure as you can handle without making yourself cry. All right, and you'll find that when you hit a trigger point, you'll know it. It'll be incredibly painful. So long as you're on the muscle, just know that it's a good pain that you're feeling. Because again, just as if you've ever had a back massage, most people have at least had a back massage. They know what it's like to find a knot in their back, and they know that's incredibly painful. Well, just know the same thing happens in our muscles throughout our entire body. We get these trigger points in our muscles, in our leg muscles, just like we do on our back muscles. So I'm going to grab the stick, and I want to start as low as possible. So let's first say that I was experiencing plantar fasciitis. All right, down in the heel. All right, I want to follow up behind my ankle bone, and I want to come up into my lower calf. So you'll feel there's still some tendons here in my ankle. So I want to try to stay on the soft tissue. I want to get in a sitting position so that I can relax my calf. I want my muscle to be as soft as possible. Right? I don't want it to be flexed because then I can't really roll it out. So relax whatever leg you're working on. Make sure your muscles are as soft as possible. Sometimes sitting on your knees is fine. Sitting in a chair is fine. I'm just sitting on my foam roll because I'm going to use this next. All right, so I want to start low, and I want to roll top to bottom. All right, and I want to dig in as much as I can. I'm just rolling high to low. I'm rolling from just above my ankle to just below my knees, staying on the soft tissue. All right, and at the same time, I'm also going to rotate around. Right, so I want to end up getting all the way around my calf, even though I'm focused on the calf right now. So I've got my gastrocnemius, and then the soleus is just inside the gastrocnemius. All right, and then you get to your bones, but then you have your tibialis anterior, this big shin muscle, if you would. It's a nice big muscle. And then you have your shin bone, which you definitely don't want to roll. And then we've got some more flexion and extension muscles around the calf area. And the one I was talking about specifically with with your heel and your arch. All right, these are going to be more so on the back side. But the cool thing about this is you don't really have to know exactly where to go. You just start rolling out. And when you get that spot and you find it, then you know that you're onto something. And then what I like to do is once I find that spot, so let's say it was right in here, I found that knot, I want to really now focus on that area for maybe 30 to 60 seconds and just roll back and forth, press in as much as I can, and really try to get rid of, and I want to release that tissue, all right, that's binding down on my muscles. Right? The idea is I want to free my muscles as much as I can from this myofascial tissue. So long strokes to get started with, and then when I find a spot, I do a short stroke and I really focus in, give as much pressure as I can. And as I'm going from knee to ankle, I also want to be rolling all the way around. Like I said, you can even come to your shin. Right? And just because you don't think you're going to be painful doesn't mean you shouldn't roll it out. What we like to do is just spend time rolling everything. You never know. You know, ideally, in a perfect world, you're finding the trigger point before you feel the trigger point. Right? So before your joints start hurting, you're rolling out your muscles to reduce, or you want to beat the, I guess you want to beat the buildup of myofascial tissue. So for instance, like the guy that created this, he would tell you that this is the toothbrush for the muscles, because in the same way that we get plaque deposited into our teeth that calcifies and hardens, which is why we need to brush it out and get our teeth cleaned and chip all that calcium out. Well, the same thing happens to our muscles. We get that buildup of calcium and it hardens, and if we don't roll out and flush the muscle and get that calcium deposit, get those calcium deposits out of our system, they're going to build up and make these clumps of myofascial tissue. They're going to make these trigger points that then pretty soon are going to have a very compounding effect, and they're going to really go after your joints, and that's really where you're going to feel it. So just like you brush every day, you actually would benefit from rolling out with a stick every day, even if it's just for a couple minutes. Better to do just short rolling sessions, even once a day, than to do long rolling sessions, say once a week, right? You can eventually bruise your muscle. So, but just so you know, if you do go too long and you bruise yourself, you just might need to take a couple days off. If you are really painful in the heel and in the arch, if you're struggling with Achilles tendonitis or plantar fasciitis, know that your calf is going to be really tender. And again, that's okay. It just means that you're onto something, and you know that I roll out fairly often, and this is your muscles should be nice and soft. All right. If your calf is fairly rock hard, it means that you're super tight, and that's why you're getting a lot of pain in your feet. So calf muscle, really important. Again, just to roll this out, the stick is a great way to do it. Long strokes, all right, all the way around. And then of course, I'm just showing you on the right side, but what you do to one side, always do to the other. Again, even if you're not feeling pain on one side or the other, just know that most likely it's going to happen eventually. Better for you to get ahead of the curve. We always like to do, injury prevention over injury maintenance, right? Injury prevention is a lot less painful, takes a lot less time. But once you're dealing with an injury and having to manage that, as everyone knows, that's a lot more painful and oftentimes very debilitating. So there's hopefully some helpful tips on how to help with Achilles tendonitis and plantar fasciitis, and again, just the importance of rolling out your calf. All right, so the second tool that we want to talk about is the foam roll. Many of you might be familiar with the foam roll. You might have seen it at the gym. If you go to a gym, I've talked to a lot of people that said, oh yeah, I got one of these in my closet, but I never use it. Never knew how to use it. So believe it or not, I've talked to a lot of folks that know about the foam roll, but it is kind of an awkward tool to use, all right, because there is some balance involved, there's some form that's involved. And so I want to show you, two things. I want to show you how I do the different rolling out techniques, just so that you feel more comfortable and confident using a foam roll. But then second, I also want to again reiterate the importance of the foam roll and how the foam roll can again help mitigate the pains that we get in our knees and in our hips both, right? So we talked about patella tendonitis, which is the pain just below your knee. We talked about IT band syndrome on the outside of your knee, which is really common. And then hip flexors oftentimes as well, just in general hip pain, but we'll talk more specific about hip flexors and show how we roll those out. So getting started, I just take the foam roll, lay it out in front of me. If you have one of those 3-footers, some people like those better because it gives you a little bit more room to work with. So you can get a 3-foot long foam tube. I like the smaller one. It's just a little bit easier to work with, less space. And then I like the trigger point performance roller. It's hollowed out, just a little bit of foam. So this has got the extra ouch factor to it, right? So when you lay on this, you're definitely going to feel it. So if it's your first time rolling out, you might want to get a foam roll that's just the solid foam all the way through. It's got a little bit more give to it, a little bit more, a little less pressure when you lay on it. So anyhow, again, like I said, what you do to one side, we want to do to the other. But I'm going to start on my left side just to try to show you. So I'm going to lay down and I'm going to use I'm going to use both arms, and then let's say if I'm rolling my left side, I want to use my right leg to help balance and mobilize myself, but I want to relax the leg that I'm working on, in this case the left leg, as much as possible. All right, so I'm going to start on my outside, let's just say along the seam of your jean, the outside of your leg. This is your IT band. All right, and the IT band runs from the iliac crest all the way down to the tib. So it runs from your hip all the way past your knee and down into your upper leg, which is why oftentimes it's a very problematic tendon band that you have to roll out. So again, what I'm going to do is, if my knee were bothering me, I'm going to focus down by my knee. All right. Typically, if my knee's hurting, if I'm having IT band problems in my knee, it's not because I have a knot way up in my upper quads. All right. So I'm back on my IT band, and again, there's really just about 1 degree of separation from the cause and the effect. All right. So the effect is my IT band on the outside of my knee is bothering me. So the effect is just above that on my IT band, I'm going to have a knot. All right. And again, I may not know exactly where it is. So I just have to roll just like we do with our calves. I have to roll from knee to hip. And as I do, if I don't find anything there, I just slightly want to rotate my hips inward. All right. Because the pressure point really isn't much bigger than maybe a golf ball. All right. And so I'm not working a very big area at any one time. And so as I'm doing a self-diagnosis and rolling through, I do want to manipulate my hips a little bit to try to find, again, I want to find those hot spots. I want to find those trigger points. And again, you'll know when you find it and when you do. On my legs, what I like to do is I like to just rest on it. I like to hold that spot and to press in again for 30 to 60 seconds. Don't forget to breathe. And if you need a pillow cushion to bite down on, I've done that before as well. It can be pretty darn painful, but after a couple of rolling sessions, we find ourselves saying that, man, this hurts so good. All right, you'll start to recognize it actually as a good pain. So my IT band, I just want to roll back and forth. So I'm using my right leg and I'm using my arms to both stabilize me, but also to help me rock back and forth. All right. There's no reason why you can't go all the way up to your hip. All right, because then if your hip flexors are bothering you, all right, and just your hip joints in general are tight, you're having a hard time getting up the stairs, in and out of the cars because your hip's popping and cracking, then move all the way up as you're rolling, get all the way up into your hip as well. All right, so I'm going to go all the way up to my hip bone, basically just below my waistband. All right, anywhere where there's muscle tissue, you can roll that out. So that's the best for the IT band. And then if I was experiencing pain below my knee, right, the patella tendon that we talked about, which is really common for runners and again, just court sport athletes in general. All right, again, that's going to be, the problem is probably going to be here in the lower part of my my top quad muscle, all right, my rectus femoris. So what I want to do is now rotate my hips and get down onto the front so that I can now roll just above my knee, and I'm now focusing again on the top of my quad. And again, I'm looking for this. Oh, I actually found one. I started running again, and I'm actually benefiting from this rolling session. So I'm killing two birds with one stone. I'm rolling out, and I'm teaching you about how I do this and how I stay well and coach all of our people as well. Because, you know, you got to be ranch fit if you're going to work on the ranch. So I got to make sure everybody's injury free. So I'm going to roll out my quads. And again, you can go all the way up into your hips. This feels good. You can stay on that soft tissue. And again, I'm just manipulating myself with my arms and the opposite leg. And if it's too painful, what you can do is just lift up with your arms and even your foot. You can lift yourself up and take some of that pressure off the foam roll. All right, I'm giving quite a bit of pressure just because I roll out a lot, so I can handle it. But if it's the first time you've done this, or first time in a long time, you might need to lift yourself up a little bit just to reduce the pressure. So I'm back on the front here, and I can roll all the way up into my hip flexors, down into my knee, and again, doing some self-diagnosis, but then if I find a hot spot, I'm hitting that as well. All right, so we're gonna talk about the back next time. Hamstrings can help the back of the knee, but a lot of the hamstring will help your back. The last for today, the last part I wanted to show you is still working on our hips and still on our knees. So now you have the inside. So we worked on the lateral side. Now we work on the medial side, which is the inside. So on this one, what you do is lay parallel with your foam roll. All right, and you want to lift up your hips and put as much weight down as you can. Again, relax that leg. And then you want to walk the foam roll through and all the way up again into your hips, right, into your groin. So if you're getting hip flexor problems, all right, groin problems, you can roll there. And then again, if your knee's bothering you on the outside of your knee, like there you go, I'm feeling one right there. All right, so this is another good action here that you can do, is roll on the inside. This one's a little bit awkward, but this is what it looks like. And I encourage you to add this in as well, getting the inside of your leg. We oftentimes don't roll that out much. So, all right. So again, do all four sections. So you want to do quad, you want to do inside, outside, and again, still roll out your hamstrings. We'll show more about that next time. And then on your calves, again, make sure you're going all the way around. The only part you want to stay off is the shin bone. But again, just cover the importance of what you do to one side, do to the other. Just because you're not hurting doesn't mean there's not pain there. And if it hurts, then you're doing the right thing. And don't lose heart, don't lose hope. You just got to roll through it. And a day after day, it's like I said, the last, my back has been hurting for 2 weeks. It took me 2 weeks to get my back to settle down. Rolling out, Michelle did the same thing recently. So even though we roll out a lot, when we find ourselves getting injured just from all the hard work we do on the ranch, it can still take a couple weeks. So, but the cool thing is we have the tools and we have the knowledge to manage our own health here on the ranch. I mean, look, we don't have time to go to town for doctor visits and therapy visits and massages. We got to do it all of ourselves here on the ranch. And when you're hurting, it's like, now's the time. As soon as you feel that twinge, as soon as you feel that pop, you should be on the foam roll, you should be using the stick, and you should be going after that pain. So again, just remember, don't focus on the effect. Don't focus on what hurts, the effect. Focus on the cause. The root cause is going to be that deep tissue massage work that you need to apply, because you've got to build up a myofascial tissue somewhere in that muscle group, right? The muscle that helps articulate and mobilize that joint. That muscle has been tightened, and you need to release it. All right, and once you can get blood flowing back into that muscle, get that muscle fiber working at 100% elasticity again, you will then reduce and eliminate that pain that you get at the joint. So I hope this was all helpful for you. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments. I am a bit passionate about this sort of stuff. Though I work on a ranch, I still love health and fitness. I used to be a fitness coach and an instructor, studied kinesiology. Did a lot of this myself, would run 100 miles a week and do a lot of my own stuff, help a lot of friends. So I enjoy doing this, so don't be shy. Leave some questions in the comments and I'd love to answer them for you. Roll on.
If you enjoyed this video, we'd love to hear from you. Like and subscribe and leave comments about what you might like to see in future videos. We'll see ya back on the ranch.